as you can see the different jerseys. As a matter of fact, I know JB and see, I know you guys were talking here before. You guys coordinated with each other because JB, you got the Urlacher jersey on. See, you got the Urlacher shirt on. It's like you guys are two long lost relatives that you just met here for the first time.
I can't believe you're just finding that out.
I'll decline anything that I look like him.
Wait a minute, I got to change the name here. So it's going to be JB and then CB up top. So we're just going to like change the names around a little bit here. It's Brian Urlacher, same name, same with you guys too. So
the names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Yeah, there you go, JB. Well, JB, it's good to see you back here tonight. Thanks for popping on with us.
My pleasure. I'm delighted to be here as always.
CB, the other Brian Urlacher, great to have you with us too.
Always a pleasure.
And we got Dano back with us. He's supporting the Walter Payton jersey. Is that the Walter Payton jersey? I can see.
Oh yeah, sweetness, baby.
Yeah, right. Man, it's looking good on you, Dano. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we're excited.
I love the wallpaper back there.
Yeah. It's a sweetness, man. It's a sweetness that he's got in the background. Yeah, we're going to get to a lot here today, guys. We're going to talk about some free agency this season, the offensive free agency, because we can really dive into that because there's some certain areas that I want to get to, and we're going to bring this up here in just a little bit because there's certain positions on the offense that I think are needed more than others. Not only that, breaking over here the last hour and a half, 2 hours or so, Jim Harbaugh, which I feel like every time we bring up his name, there's going to be some type of reaction. And my Facebook of all my Chicago friends, since he is now the coach of the Chargers, if you guys are just finding that out for the first time, he was hired for the Los Angeles Chargers to be their next head coach. I feel like the reaction on my socials has just gone off in like a bad way. Like, why the heck are we not signing Jim Harbaugh? So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. I want to get your guys' thoughts because I feel like that's always a hot topic whenever his name comes up. And then we're going to preview this weekend's games to two games to see who's going to the Super Bowl in just a couple of weeks. And I think they're going to be both tremendous games, too. I cannot wait for Sunday. So with that being said, guys, let's get into it. Let's talk about the 2024 free agency, and let's talk about offensively because I think when you look at the Bears, you look at a couple of different areas. The first thing that I look at is offensive line more towards the center position. I think that's the most important position that we need on the entire offense. Outside of the quarterback, whatever we do quarterback-wise, but I think the most important is going to be a center. And then the wide receivers. So maybe I think I'm going to start with the wide receivers because I think it's an interesting one. And I don't know, and I'm going to get your guys' opinions on this in a minute. The free agent class, especially on the offensive side, doesn't blow me away. Now, there's going to be releases. Teams across the leagues are going to start releasing players, especially when it gets closer to free agency and cap hits and stuff like that. But I think the free agency in general on the offensive side is just okay. And I'm going to start with wide receivers because I think this draft, we hear so much about the quarterbacks, about the draft this year, guys. The wide receivers are right there with it. The wide receivers coming out on this year's draft is incredible. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull it up here and give you the top five that I put together, the list that is out there right now that a lot of people are putting in their top five. Obviously, we got Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State. That guy looks like a stud. We've all watched him play. We've all heard his name brought up a couple of times. He looks like he's a legit number one.
His dad beat us in the Super Bowl.
We don't try to remember things like that. That was too long ago. Number two.
That's it. You're off the show. Get him out of here.
Yeah, the one Brian Urlacher eliminated. We're just going to keep it to one tonight.
That's right. Malik
Neighbors of LSU, Rome Aduze of Washington, Brian Thomas Jr. of LSU, and Troy Franklin of Oregon. And these are look like legit playmaking wide receivers. So for me, when we look into the draft and we look into the wide receiver room, you can look at the free agency list, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr. I actually think Michael Pittman Jr. would be my favorite out of the top 10 list.
I agree.
I like Mike Evans, but is Mike Evans just another veteran? Two veterans? Are we going to overpay for wide receiver when you look at this list? So I'm going to start with you, JB. When you look at the draft and the names that I just mentioned, is there anybody coming out this year that's up you?
Yeah, I honestly, the one name that's on the list that should be intriguing to everybody, and it may be something that we overlooked. One of the names on the list is Darnell Mooney, and I think we need to take a hard look at how Mooney is going to fit in this new offense. Is he going to be somebody who is an asset? Is he going to be somebody who can walk? If he does, it changes the need at wide receiver quite a bit, because I mean, he's been our WR2, behind DJ Moore, clear cut. I mean, Equanimeous St. Brown, he can't stay on the field. Tyler Scott decides whether he wants to catch that day or not. Velus Jones, God help him, I mean, he's fast as a Ferrari, but he's got hands made of pudding, So and the rest of the guys are kind of just cannon fodder out there. So the one name on the free agent list that I think is most intriguing, and I would want to know the compatibility, with the new system is Mooney. And then you mentioned the guy at Tampa Bay coming out, and I'm blanking.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans. I mean, to me, if you can snag him now, it changes your draft. Even you might not. If you got DJ Moore and Evans, especially if you think Mooney's a good fit and you want to keep him, now you're looking at other needs. Maybe they got bumped up the list. I mean, it just, there's so many wild scenarios and different priorities that can shift. The way free agency seasons the draft is going to be very, very telling, especially when you bring in a new coordinator.
Dano, and you bring up some great points there, JB. The new coordinator, Shane Waldron, which we talked about that last week. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of players he's going to want in his offense and the type of position coaches that he ends up hiring that I know he's interviewing for right now. Dano, it sounded like when I was reading off the names, you agreed with me when we look at the free agent list, Michael Pittman Jr. I'm a huge fan, and and maybe he goes underneath the radar sometimes because he did play on the Colts, and they were under kind of a rebuilding year with a new coach this year. Rookie quarterback that went down, Gardner Minshew comes in, and Gardner Minshew had some very good success, but I think Pittman was a big reason for that. He's a little bit younger. He's going into that free agent year, and I think a younger receiver like him paired up with the Darnell Mooney could be a very good pairing.
Yeah, that's the key word. Out of all those free agents, he's younger. The thing was, if I wasn't going to go after Pittman because he is on the younger side, I think for your number 2 receivers, you got to go in the draft, take that receiver, because Moore's a little bit older. So if you go sign a Mike Evans or somebody else, you got them kind of on the same timeline. If you're able to draft a receiver at 9 or a little later in the draft, you can kind of have him as Moore gets older, moves out. He can kind of slide in at the number 1 slot, the rookie, and then you go ahead and just draft another receiver, a couple years from now.
I like where you're going. I like where you're going there too.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, Dale, but I love what you're saying because I think you're on the same page that I am right now when it comes to looking for a receiver for the Bears. And that's why I went out and looked over this draft list. I've been looking at quite a few of these draft lists on the receivers for the last couple of days. And all the different reads that I've been checking out is this is a heavy receiver draft class. And it's CB, kind of like what Dan was talking about. When you're paying a lot of money to DJ Moore, who is a legit number 1 wide receiver, going out and being able to draft that receiver, are you going to go out and pay a Mike Evans who, let's face it, he's had a good year this year. He had some he did have some drops. And if you watch some of the games that Tampa played, especially down the stretch, there were some that maybe are saying, does Mike Evans still have it anymore? I still think he's a very good receiver. But are you going to pay a veteran like that? Or are you going to take a look at the list like I just kind of read here a little bit of your, like I said, Malik Neighbors of LSU, Brian Thomas Jr. of LSU, these guys that could be legit number 2 receivers on the other side of Moore.
Yeah, Michael Pittman Jr. I liked, but with the draft coming in, I like Neighbors. I like Jermaine Burton from Alabama.
Yeah, that was another one that I was going to put on the list too. That another playmaker that looks like he can be very well.
Jalen Polk, maybe. McMillan, possibly as a third rounder. But something I seen today, I don't know if I'd go down that path, but I seen Tyler Lockett. He's getting up there in age, but he's coming to the end of his contract, and he's got a $14 million cap hit, I think, this coming year. So, I mean, with Waldron coming to Chicago, maybe that's a possibility. And he could come in and help if we do re-sign Mooney and then draft a couple more wide receivers this next draft. Maybe he can come in and show them how to play in the system, and then give them a heads up, and then be off in the sunset.
Off in the yeah, right. Bring him into the sunset.
Yeah. Well, he's getting up there in age. I don't know how long he'll be able to play, but that's different for every player.
Get him on a 1 or 2 year contract or something, maybe something like that.
Yeah, you bring a good point there too, because him coming from Seattle, and by the way, it looks too it looks the last day or so, he's been interviewing some of his assistants. Waldron, I'm talking about, the coordinator for us, has been interviewing some of the assistants that he's had with Seattle. So they start bringing them in, and then I guess whoever the coaches in Seattle, they're going to go in and put their own system in place. So that's the beauty about all this, is we don't know, because each player has a different system, or each coach has a different system in mind. But when I think of the wide receiver guys, I'm thinking of the teams that we have left here in the playoffs. And when I go back to looking at some of these young receivers that I was talking about, first of all,
I forgot about T. Higgins too.
T. Higgins is on that list, who did get hurt this year. Now, he did get hurt with Cincinnati, but I feel like in some way that Cincinnati is going to bring him back. By all the sounds of it, I feel like he's going back to Cincinnati, but you never know. But the reason why I brought up these young receivers in this draft, because it's very draft heavy with these receivers, is look at some of the teams left in the playoffs this weekend. For example, the Ravens. Last year they were really missing on that receiver. Like they had a bunch of number 2s, number 3s, guys that weren't able to catch the ball. Then they go and get Flowers in the draft, and he has made a difference for Lamar Jackson. That guy is fast. He can catch the ball. He has good separation. And then they complement him with Odell Beckham on the other side. So that was a great pickup for them. And you go draft a receiver like that. How about the Lions, St. Brown? They drafted him, 3-4 years ago in the 3rd round. Was it 3rd or 4th round? It wasn't a first or second round pick. Yeah. So I feel like it's always important to bring this up with the receivers, because if you really look hard into the draft, and you can see it with a lot of other teams this year, you can find that player. It doesn't have to be the 1st, 2nd round, but if it's a receiver-heavy draft like it is this year, and you do your due diligence, you could really go out there and find that wide receiver. And that's at least what I'm thinking of.
We could pick up a good 2 to 3 receivers draft.
Correct. Yeah. And I guess it just depends where they want to go with that pick, and where they want to pick it too. So it'll be very interesting to see how this one plays out, because the Bears do have a lot of money in cap space. They still got to pay Jalen. I think Jalen Johnson's going to be the first thing they're going to have then everything's going to fall underneath that. And we'll see where it goes from there. So we talked about wide receiver guys. I want to move on now to the offensive line, which has always been a hot topic for the Bears, because we either say, oh my God, they suck, they're not together, or some days are good, or like when Tevin Jenkins goes down, man, they're just not the same. How do our tackles play? I feel like this whole year has just been like up and down so much. So when we look at the free agents, I guess I'll start with tackles, because I think this offensive tackle free agency is a very good list here when it comes to if you could get a right deal for somebody. So we got Mike Owen, who is a tackle for the Patriots, who I think is a great player. He had a very good year. Jonah Williams of the Cincinnati Bengals, he was a high draft pick for them. I know he's had some injury problems, but when he is healthy, he's very good. Micaiah Becton, he is of the Jets. And I feel like if you're playing offense for the Jets and you're going into free agency, you're probably looking to bounce from the Jets this year. And I know his last game, I was looking at some of the film and some of the work of his last game against the Dolphins. It was kind of shaky, but he's had a really good year. Tyrone Smith is a great player for the Cowboys. We've heard about him for years. Trent Brown of the Patriots, another player that is going to be a free agent. So I feel like the tackle list. So, CB, we'll start with you. When you look at the list of the tackles, all those 5 names that I mentioned, which one impresses you when you think of that list?
What was it? A couple years ago, Jonah Williams was going to be a free agent, or I was trying to see if he would get traded to Chicago, because he's been a name on my list for a while that I've liked, and he's been to a Super Bowl. He's had to protect for Joe Burrow, even though Joe Burrow's gotten injured a couple times. I mean, 5 guys play on the line. It's not just one guy that lets a sack go by or whatever. But Jonah Williams is probably my number one tackle that I liked. It seems like Dallas just constantly is getting good offensive linemen. So the guy from Dallas would probably come in and fit pretty well. But
Tyrone Smith. That's
Tyrone
what I
Smith,
was going to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy. You're right. Dallas is for some ungodly reason for the last 40 years is just an absolute. They're a factory for offensive line.
Yeah, offensive
really
linemen and linebackers.
Yeah, the linebackers lately. Yeah.
Yeah, especially on their defensive side. And yeah, that speaks a lot to Dallas with their offensive line. And that's why you look at their running back. That's why I feel like Ezekiel Elliott and Pollard, like all these guys that have ran behind that offensive line have been very successful, is because, to your point, CB, that they draft well on their offensive line and they're always cohesive and work very well together. So
constantly have all pros on their offensive line, man.
It must be Mike McCarthy.
It's unfair.
That's why Mike McCarthy's the best coach in the league, and he's going back to Dallas next year.
No, that offensive line was pretty much solidified before he went to Dallas.
Come on, man. We're all Mike McCarthy fans around here. Dado, speaking of Mike McCarthy Packer fans, Dado with the Bears jersey.
Are you a secret cheesehead?
I gotta go.
This is what I do to kick people off. I call them Packer fans. Second weekend.
That's about as low as you can get there.
Right. Yeah.
Some friend I am, huh?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You started to my wedding.
Yeah.
He just called you a moldy fan.
That's rough, bro.
So, Dad, you know what interests me about these guys is there's two of the top 10 are from the Patriots. Now, we always look at the Patriots as that team that wins every year. Not the last couple of years. Now they've struggled a little bit. Now, when you have Mac Jones as your quarterback and the way he looked last year, he didn't vibe very well. But I look at these players on Dano. I look at them on the Patriots, and Mike Owen to me would be a slam dunk for the Bears. I think he'd be everything you look for. He's a gritty player. He's a tough player, and he's very good at his job.
Yeah, I think as fans, we fall into the trap of we want every position to be all pros at every position. And for now, I think, can we use an upgrade at left tackle? Sure. But I don't think that's even a top 3-4 need right now. I mean, I'm willing to give Braxton Jones. I know they got a lot of cap space and they got a lot of draft picks, but they only got so many. I think there's bigger needs on the team for now, and I'm willing to give Braxton Jones at least one more year, and maybe spend that money elsewhere. If I'm going to spend the money, maybe go out and get a center. I think they should draft a center too. But are you going to if you're going to draft a rookie quarterback, are you going to have a rookie center lined up with them? I guess
that just depends on what way they're going to go with quarterback.
Right.
That's right.
Daniel, I'm glad you brought that up about the center, because I agree with you. I think the biggest need on the Bears this year is their center position. So JB, and the unfortunate thing is the list of centers is not very long, and you could go into the draft and grab a center, but Lloyd Cushenberry is on that list. He is on the Broncos, and he's very, very highly rated. I know he's had a good year, good system with Sean Payton with Denver. So if you're looking to upgrade at center, I mean, heck, that's the first thing that I look at, JB.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you can get a guy like that, out of Denver, tough guy, plays in harsh weather, he's going to be right at home at Soldier Field. You're not going to go anywhere, whether you keep in Fields or whether you bring in, Penix or Nix or whoever. You're not going to go anywhere unless you get that center quarterback exchange right. I mean, the snaps were flying over Justin's head. I mean, it was complete madness, So you get a guy, like this guy from Denver, super tough. We're constantly on the quest to replace, a Jay Hilgenberg and Olin Kreutz, these guys who they have to be the Jim Otto on our team. They have to be the Mike Webster on our team. They have to be the embodiment of the O-line. They have to set the tone for toughness professionalism, for expertise, for being the baddest group of 5 dudes on the field, bar none. And if you can't get a center in there who's kind of a jerk, I mean, you want somebody who's mean. You want just a nasty dude in there. Then it's going to be tough for the other O-linemen to lead. The center is making is a tremendous asset to the quarterback. They're making the calls as to protections and all the stuff pre-snap. Now the quarterback can override that if they have any expertise. I mean, Peyton Manning sure could. I'm not sure Justin Fields can, but
Omaha.
yeah, I mean, you're gonna slide protections around like that. But I mean, you look at the way Peyton Manning worked with Jeff Saturday. I mean, for instance, I mean, Peyton will tell you that's one of his greatest assets was his center. So you gotta get that right. Whether you draft an absolute monster, and there's a couple of them coming out that are gonna be good, but it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them to learn under a free agent. And I would have to agree. I think, especially with how well Darnell Wright played, I don't think tackle is in our top 5 in needs, but center absolutely is. So yeah, I love the acquisition. If we can get the guy from Denver, to me, I think that would be a steal.
Yeah, that's the biggest to me in our offseason, outside of the quarterback. If it's going to be Fields or the number 1 pick, Caleb Williams, that's going to be the biggest question. Right below that, to me, is the center, and they got to get that fixed. Whether that is going to get somebody like him from Denver, or you're going to go and draft somebody. To everything you said right there, David, you need that toughness and that exchange and that cohesiveness with the center and the quarterback. And we did not have that last year, and I think that affected us on some of our games and some of our game plans in general when you go back and look at the film. 100%. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube to our Chicago Sports podcast, Monsters of the Madhouse. And you guys got to check out Underdog Fantasy. Now, this weekend, we're all excited for more playoff football to decide who's going to the big game. Well, we got 4 teams left. So you can enter your bid by using the special CSP promo code when you sign in at underdogfantasy.com. And Chicago Sports Podcast users will receive 100% deposit match up to $100 when they use the CSP sign-in code. So you can get 5 picks right, and you will multiply your money by 20 times. It's simple, it's fast, and it's fun. It's Underdog Fantasy, the official gaming partner of Chicago Sports Podcast, the voice of the Chicago sports fans. And we got the voice of some Chicago sports fans right now here on Monsters of the Madhouse. Thank you all for listening tonight. We got some Urlachers. We got Walter Payton in the house. We got Brian Urlacher in the house. We got Brian Urlacher in the We're all crazy sports fans, guys, and we're so happy to have you guys with us as we're talking about the 2024 free agency, the free agent class this year.
I need to get me an Olin Cruz jersey.
Yeah, man. I got my old. I still have my Khalil Mack jersey. I actually do have my Urlacher jersey too. So I didn't get the memo from you guys. You guys didn't inform me. I'm like, I needed to wear that.
Because
we'll have to get together next Wednesday.
Yeah, that's our excuse to get back together again, right?
That's right.
Hey guys, when we look at this free agent class too, we were just talking about the wide receivers. We were talking about centers. I think another position, we can go either way here, but I think we need another tight end on the other side of Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet had a good year. I like Cole Kmet. I think he's a good player. Do I think he's a great player? No, but I think he's a very good player. He's a player that you want on your team. I'm glad we have him resigned. But I think we were missing that on the other side. Now, I know they brought in Robert Tonyan, and that was not a good signing. And I don't think they even knew what they were probably.
We don't need to sign any more cheeseheads.
We don't need any more Packers players. Yeah, we don't need to get there. But the one when I look at the tight end list, Dalton Schultz. Now, Dalton Schultz is intriguing to me because the Cowboys pretty much let him go a little over a year ago. So the Texans picked him up. Texas picked him up on like a 1-year deal, like a 1-year kind of prove-it deal. Like, hey, the Texans who thought they were just going to be rebuilding probably had no clue they were going to be as good as what they were this year going into the playoffs. Dalton Schultz proved himself. And if you look at some of the quotes of some of the players like C.J. Stroud, they praise about him and what he's done for their team. And I just think with him and going after him, depending on the price, I got to get it on the right price now.
Right.
I think if you pair him up with Cole Kmet on the other side, boy, could that help the offense. I mean, you look at he's the guy that stands out to me. The other names, okay. Noah Fant, good player. Hunter Henry, listen, you have Mac Jones as your quarterback in New England. Maybe a change of scenery with a different quarterback would help him. Mike Gesicki. So it is a pretty good list. There's Dalton Schultz and a pretty good list of other players. So, CB, when you take a look at the list of the tight ends, Dalton Schultz stands out to me. Does he stand out to you, or is there somebody else I just named that you would like to have on the side of Cole Kmet?
Yeah, he stands out. I mean, with what they did in Houston this year, I mean, having a great year in Schultz, definitely a part of that. Another name I would probably throw in there is he just got signed by the Lions. I don't know if he's going to get picked up. Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
He might be in the rotation of tight ends we could pick up too. So,
we've already got the token geezer Mercedes Lewis at tight end though.
Oh, I forgot about we forgot about that.
And honestly, I hope they keep him. I hope they keep him until he's 50. The idea that he knows how to block and he's a giant target in the end zone and he's a complete novelty. Love it.
Right.
Bounce Tunyon, get me a free agent tight end that's an absolute baller. You put a two tight end set in there with Kmet. Who you gonna cover? Fantastic.
And honestly, the tight end position in the draft is pretty deep this year too.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And again, when we go back and we talk a lot about the draft, and I always compare to teams that were in the playoffs this year, like the Rams and the Lions. Teams like the Lions, for example, taking Laporta, where they took him too. Like you can find those type of players in the draft, and you don't want to overspend on free agency. But when you have certain guys out there like a Dalton Schultz that can be a very good asset to your team,
Right.
I think it's definitely something to look at. And so, JB, same thing. When I look at the tight end list, do you agree when you look at the Bears roster and you look at Cole Kmet that having another tight end or going out drafting and signing another tight end would be a good fit to have on the other side of Kmet?
Get me a University of Iowa Hawkeye tight end.
We don't talk Iowa.
One.
We don't talk Iowa on the show, guys. Did you not know that?
Chicago.
My best friend's a Hawkeye, so we're good.
Does this say Des Moines Sports Podcast? No, I don't think so.
True. But I will tell you that, yes, Kmet I thought was one of the best extensions the Bears have done in a lot of years. And there was a couple of friends of mine that were dumbstruck and irate that we extended him. I said, you watch. I said, this kid is going to flourish. He has absolutely got what it takes, and he totally proved it this year.
Well, if it would have happened like how we handled Greg Olsen, I would have been mad because then he would have went somewhere else and just flourished somewhere else too.
Thank you. Exactly. And so, you keep Lewis because, I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. He's an enormous target. He was standing there all by himself. Justin couldn't hit him between the 8 and the 4, but at least he got it to the catch radius. But, Tunyon, I'm sorry. Tunyon had too many drops in horrible situations where you absolutely need him to make a play. He did not make a play. I think
it hit him right in the hands.
It was disgusting. I think any one of the four of us could have caught some of those balls. So, 100% tight end is a focus. I think you could probably get a pretty serviceable tight end maybe in round 3. I'm not sure if it's a top need, but if that is one of those needs, like you said, if we can snag, a good one in free agency for the right money. Perfect. Take it off the draft list. We got other spots to fill. Now you're good. You got Kmet, Lewis, and a free agent tight end. Perfect. Move on. Next.
Can we make a call to San Francisco?
Yeah.
There's a certain guy that's a Bears fan on that team, right?
Yeah.
Dude, he's all about the Bears in those press conferences. George Kittle we're talking about, obviously.
Right.
So Dano,
God, can you imagine Kittle and Kmet?
Could you imagine just Kittle alone? Could you imagine just having Kittle on your team? Period. I mean,
That's
even
what I'm
without
saying.
him, like I'm like he's incredible. What he sometimes he's injury prone though sometimes too though. But when that guy's healthy though, man, he is unbelievable. So Dano, when we look at the list of running backs, and there's a heck of a list this year. There's always the age-old debate. You draft a running back, you don't overpay for a running back because it's a running back. However, when you look at this list of Saquon Barkley, who I'm a big fan of now, he's another one that if you sign him, you either got to back off on him a little bit because you know he's not going to be playing all 17 games during the season. He's probably going to be hurt at some point. I love Josh Jacobs. I got to wonder if Josh Jacobs, though, now that Antonio Pierce is going back to the Raiders, I wonder if he's going to go back to the Raiders because he was pretty adamant about that and how he'd want to go back there if he was there. I see DeAndre Swift in this list, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, who could be in there. So it's a pretty heck of a list, Dano. And what about you? When you look at the Bears running back situation, we got our rookie last year that did very well. We got Herbert, that was very good. But would you take a look at any of these backs to supplement them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, I'd love to have Saquon Barkley, but I don't know if what he's going to cost, if that's going to be, smart allegation of funds. But DeAndre Swift.
Sorry, Brandon.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
What I like about DeAndre Swift is I think that he provides something that this offense is missing, is a pass catcher out of the backfield. He could become that. You'd probably get him cheap, or not probably. You'd be able to get him cheaper than you'd be able to get Saquon. But I mean, I'd love to have Saquon, but like I said, I don't know if that's what he's going to cost. Maybe you could get him on a 2-year deal. I don't know. But either Saquon or DeAndre as far as the free agents go.
I like DeAndre Swift. I think he's a good player, and I thought it was very interesting that the Lions actually went on from it, but it worked out for them. They wanted to get younger. They went and got Gibbs, who I tweeted out on Sunday. Gibbs on the Lions is one of my favorite players to watch in the league. He's so freaking good.
Yeah, he's good.
He is ridiculous. Yeah. But Swift had a good year with the Eagles. Like when they were clicking, before they went downhill and nobody knew how to coach on that team. He was running the ball. He was good. So I wonder what the price tag is going to be on him, and I wonder what the price tag is going to be on some of these running backs, and who's going to set the market for them. Because these teams are going to go into the draft and grab who they want, or our team's so needy for one of these players, because that's a pretty impressive list of running back. But I think that's a more impressive list of running back free agents that we've had in a very long time.
Yeah,
and it's just going to be interesting to see how they fall and where those dominoes go when free agency starts. So thank you all so much for watching Monsters of the Madhouse tonight on the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel. You can click like, subscribe. Please do that. You're also watching on the Chicago Sports Podcast Facebook page, and you guys can follow us along there with updates of everything going on in Chicago sports. You'll get the latest about the Bears, the White Sox, the Cubs, the Bulls, all of our Chicago teams. Our guy Cleet Campbell also putting up articles as well, who does a very good job of just everything going on right now. So make sure you guys like that. We love you, Cleet. We miss you, Cleet. Cleet does a very good job. And Brandon Trax Hyatt, who runs everything here for us on the Chicago Sports Podcast, does an amazing job with all of us and all the different shows that you guys can check out. Also, a good friend of ours, Al Bandito Yankee, as we all love to have a drink, especially during football season. So this is tequila experience like you've never had. Chris Chelios. It's his revolutionary El Bandito Yankee. It's authentic, smooth core, additive-free, 100% blue agave, ultra-premium tequila. It has changed the game. It is thirst quenching, and you're going to enjoy it when you watch your games this weekend, when you go out with your friends, when you go out after hours. Heck, you can have it all night long, and you can get it at elbanditoyankee.com. And check that out.
What's after hours, like 10 p.m.?
well, for us guys in our 30s that are on this podcast today, after hours is like 9:30 for us. After hours. We can go a little bit later on Saturdays, right?
You got to remember, 10 in the morning is 5 o'clock somewhere, bro.
Is that when you're going to start your El Bandito?
Well, a little El Bandito with some orange juice, a little splash of grenadine,
Well, dude, yeah, as long as you can put in your breakfast supplements with your orange juice with it, and you can have your piece of fruit.
A
I think
pre-workout
That's,
shake.
it's
Yeah,
healthy.
mix it in with a protein shake. Listen, you can do whatever you want, guys, but either way, it's going to taste amazing, and you're going to want to pick that up.
Yep.
So, all right, so we're talking about Bears free agency, and one more I want to get to for our offensive free agents is the quarterback class, which is always interesting because either you're a team that's going to draft a quarterback that you have a top pick, or you're a middle of the road team where you don't know what the heck's going on and you need some type of holdover like the Buccaneers did last year that actually worked out for them. But when you look at the quarterbacks this year, Kirk Cousins is at the top of the list, who had a very good year last. I think Kirk Cousins actually had a very good last 2 years in Minnesota, especially under Kevin O'Connell, who I think is an excellent coach, a very good offensive-minded coach. Baker Mayfield has had a great year, threw over 4,000 yards. It was a renaissance year for the Buccaneers. Then it just kind of falls off. Then you're kind of looking at number 2 and number 3 is like Jacoby Brissett, okay, good backup. Gardner Minshew had a good year with the Colts, a number 2 quarterback. Joe Flacco, Mason Rudolph came in for the Steelers. I could tell you because my girlfriend, diehard Steelers fan, we watch every Steelers game. What he did this year with the Steelers was great. Although he did come back, I do think he came back to earth a little bit the last game, but he also played I'm drawing a blank who the Steelers played their playoff game. I'll come back to me.
Browns.
Buffalo.
Buffalo. That's it. Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah. Buffalo. Yeah. So it was
Like
a
I
little
said,
tougher.
Buffalo.
Yeah. Buffalo Browns, same thing.
Yeah, they
then
kind
it's
of are.
Sam Darnold, Ryan.
Well, they're both at home now, so
Yeah.
Yeah. They're both getting ready to play golf here. It's somewhere warm pretty soon. So Dano, I'll start with you. When you look at the quarterback class, does any of those quarterbacks blow you away?
Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I don't know. I'm a little underwhelmed by the list, to be honest. And
Yeah, I agree, man. It's a very underwhelming quarterback class. I gotta believe Kirk Cousins will probably resign with Minnesota at some point, and I can't imagine, JB, that the Buccaneers are going to let go of Baker Mayfield, especially the year that he had. Listen, I get it. He threw that interception at the end, but Baker Mayfield was great in that game, and also he was coming. He had like a minute and like 15 seconds left in the game, and he was trying to get it from like all the way down at the end of the field. I thought Baker Mayfield actually played very well that game. He had some drop passes from Mike. There was drop passes in that game from him. He had a good year. So Baker Mayfield, do you think he returns to the Buccaneers? Do you think there's going to be another team that's going to vie for him?
He's got to go back to the Bucs. I mean, the Bucs would be foolish to let him go. I mean, he was brought in as kind of a stopgap, like, whatever. We need a guy. And I've never been a Mayfield fan. Coming out of Oklahoma, I'm a Baylor Bear. I want nothing to do with the guy, and so I'm salty about him to begin with. But I got to tell you what, give him his due. That kid busted it, and he really, really was a good fit there. And what more do you want from any employer? Much less somebody that's in the complexity of playing the quarterback position on a National Football League team. What more do you want than to go somewhere where you're a good fit? And they don't have a lot of upheaval in a lot of other places. He's going to be kind of sliding right into doing what he was doing again this year. If I were calling the shots in Tampa Bay, I would nail that kid's foot to the floor and say, "You're not going anywhere."
Could we see Baker in Minnesota? Do you think they may just want to change of pace and not re-sign Cousins?
You could. I mean, he could go to play anywhere, but I mean, same with Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota has no turnover in coaching. There's no turmoil. There's no drama going on up there. Cousins is their guy. And they love him. He's a good quality guy. Yeah. He fits the character checkbox on a team like Minnesota. Capable, very serviceable quarterback. Believe me, those first 2 weeks of the year when Justin was standing there again like a deer in the headlights, not moving, just holding the ball for 8 seconds, waiting to get creamed, I was dreaming about getting Cousins here.
He's a local kid too, isn't he? Wasn't he
what's
local?
that?
Wasn't Kirk Cousins a local kid?
Yeah.
I think you're right on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, or at least he lived here at some point.
Yeah, I don't see any real turmoil in the quarterback free agent class this year. Yeah. I don't.
No, I don't see it either. And JB brings up a good point. The another name on this list that intrigues me is Ryan Tannehill, who was a starting quarterback for the Titans, had one really good year. I thought the year that the Bengals, it was 2021, that game that the Titans played the Bengals, I thought the Titans were the best team in the AFC that year, and Tannehill was the one that held them back with the bad game that he played, that defense that they had that year. So, CB, when you look at Ryan Tannehill, or if there's anybody else on this list, could he be a starter again in this league, or is he now more of like a second or backup quarterback?
Tannehill, I think, is just a little past his prime. I think that he's going to be a solid number 2. But another name, I think I've seen it on the list, Jameis Winston. He could come in and be a serviceable backup, or he could be a bridge player. Honestly, I think he still has something left in the tank. But,
like cards?
Oh yeah,
like playing bridge.
Yeah, Canasta.
Right.
Canasta, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, don't you be talking like Jameis that way. But there's something. You're right, though. There's something behind it because the Saints keep bringing him back every year. So I don't like, and he must really like it there, and he has some type of chemistry there because I think Jameis Winston, he's a backup quarterback. Let's face it here. That's what he is. That's what his role is. But there's something about him that the Saints constantly bring him back every year, and whether that's like helping out with this year would be David Carr, or in years past with whoever it was, people seem to like him and people seem to like his leadership. So I think that's an interesting name on the list too. But these are a lot of quarterbacks you got to take a look at because you need a good backup in this league. As you can see, your quarterback can go down at any time. Look at the Vikings this year as a perfect example. Yeah, Tyler Bagent when Justin Fields went down. I think the Vikings had it the worst though. I think when once Kirk Cousins went down and they started going to Dobbs and Nick Mullins, I'm like, dude, you guys are done. The Vikings, you're not going to the playoffs anymore, man. You can't go from that to that. That's just like too much. You're asking for too much at that point when it comes to the quarterback. So. Yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching tonight on the Monsters of the Madhouse podcast, the Chicago Sports Podcast on Facebook. You can like and follow us on our YouTube channel. Also, check out some of our other shows in the past, as we have many different shows that airs on this network, including tomorrow night. Pinkalicious will be back. You guys can watch him tomorrow night, Pinky full of energy and enthusiasm. That's why we love him so much. And you guys can check him out tomorrow night, whether it's on our YouTube channel or right here on the Chicago Sports Podcast Facebook page. So guys, as we look ahead here, big news earlier today, a hot button topic when it comes to Jim Harbaugh. And I say that because all of us right here, whether you're watching us and us talking about everything going on in Chicago sports right now, we have memories of Jim Harbaugh, maybe growing up as a kid, watching him as a quarterback. I certainly do. We have memories as him a coach of the 49ers. He just won the national championship with Michigan. He's a damn good football coach. He's an interesting man from the stuff that we see out there. Damn good football coach. He goes to the Los Angeles Chargers today. He's their new head coach with a 5-year deal. I didn't see the money part of that yet, but I saw it was a 5-year deal.
It's going to be a lot.
It's going to be a lot of money. They got their man. Justin Herbert is going to be paired up with him now. I think that's going to be a great pairing, and I think that's going to turn around that team that they are slowly looking for because I think they held on to their coach last year a little too long. Probably didn't have any business being a head coach for the Chargers. But when you talk about Jim Harbaugh, and I bring this up because I look at all of my Chicago friends, maybe you guys can relate to this that's watching the show, you guys that are part of the show right now, but on all of my social feeds, blowing up, why the hell didn't the Bears talk to this guy? Why is he not the coach of the Bears? Why is he going to the Chargers? I don't understand this. And it was just all of that. It wasn't anything else. Like, I felt like it was all my Chicago friends just angry. And Daniel, I'll start with you. Big Bears fan that I know you are. When it comes to Jim Harbaugh, did we miss the boat on this, just not even having a conversation with him?
Well, I would have to think, no matter what Ryan Poles was saying at their press conference with Eagles who's sitting right next to him, that he reached out to some back channels to see if to gauge any interest. And then the thing with it, with the power structure, Harbaugh is probably going to want total control. So I don't know how that would work out with Poles. You know what I mean? I know everyone's saying, "Oh, well, he probably doesn't want to work for McCaskey," but from what I hear, he actually has a really good relationship with McCaskey, so I don't think that was the problem. I just don't think kind of the wrong, right place at the wrong time with him.
Thanks, Cheryl.
I think he was always going to San Diego. I mean, I heard it as far as back 6 months ago. So I don't know if they missed the boat. I'm sure they reached out to him and they just couldn't come to an agreement.
Yeah, I don't know about that. And JB, to what Dana was talking about, do you think there could be anything about this in the past? Do you think there's anything in the past maybe where there was no interest? Now, first off, we got to put this straight. Matt Eberflus is the coach of the Bears. He's under contract, so you don't want to just sit here and just assume that they talked to him or were able to talk to him because Eberflus is still the coach under contract. But JB, at the same time, when you look at the history of the Bears and stuff and kind of how it's all played out, do you think that has anything to do with that, with maybe Jim Harbaugh not wanting to look at that possibility to be with the Bears?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. The Bears have soiled relationships with outgoing players before. Did it with Butkus, did it with a little bit with Urlacher. So it's not out of the question to think that somebody might have twisted somebody his arm a funny direction. I've never heard anything about that, and usually that kind of dirt sort of bubbles to the surface somewhere. And especially with Harbaugh's high-profile successes, I think we would have heard something by now. So I really, the only thing I can think of is, the weather in LA is pretty nice, and if you're going to go somewhere in the twilight of your coaching career and hang out, that's not so bad,
He did play in San Diego a couple of years too.
Yeah,
Stanford,
exactly. So, I mean, a guy like that, he coached in San Francisco, whatever. So he's, I can see he's weird enough, quite honestly, in a great way. I love the guy. I mean, he's weird enough. He fits that California vibe a little bit, I think it's a good fit on a lot of levels. Just on face value, the idea that a coach like Jim Harbaugh, as accomplished as he is, comes available after winning the national championship like 150 miles away, and you're like, no, we're not going to talk to him. We're going to stay with Matt Eberflus. Yeah. I was like, oh God, oh no. I mean, there's something in there.
It's like a horrible nightmare. It's deja vu with Ryan Pace.
Exactly. I mean, so you get that same, little acid burn in the bottom of your stomach, when you look at face value at something like that. It absolutely just boggles the mind. But you're right. I mean, there's contracts in place. There is, it's timing issues. It's what Harbaugh wants. I mean, if you still got to pay Eberflus and Harbaugh wants absolutely, to the moon and back money, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, it's just not going to happen, so is Poles being expedient and just saying, nah, Eberflus is our guy because he kind of sees through that already? Or is it just another classic Bears blunder, in that regard? I don't know. I wish him well.
I refuse myself to believe that.
Well, JB just said it, a Bears blunder, and I guess you could kind of compare this to the Cubs situation where they had David Ross, they bring in Craig Counsell, a coach that is very highly respected, one of the better ones in the league. Do you kind of see that same way here? You get a guy like Jim Harbaugh, very accomplished, just won the national championship. Michigan was very successful in San Francisco. Now he has an opportunity to come where he played for the Bears. Right. But they stick with their coach. I do like Matt Eberflus. I think he's a good coach. But when you have a chance to get a guy like Jim Harbaugh, do you think that they missed out on this opportunity? And how do you think he's going to fare in LA?
I think we definitely missed out on the opportunity to even just talk to him, because from what I read, even right after the national championship, is he was only interested in the Chicago coaching the job there. And it wasn't like another week or so after that I heard him interviewing for the LA job. And I think he's gonna do good. And with Justin Herbert already in place as quarterback, and he's got an aging defense though with Khalil Mack and Bosa. Well, Bosa's not too old, but I mean with Derwin James,
Yep.
he's getting up there too. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how their cap situation is because I know they got a high cap coming in. So.
And their defense gave up a lot of points. That's why Brandon Staley got fired. Is he was a defensive-minded coach, and they gave up a ton of points last year. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this one plays out. I can't wait to see how it plays out because I think that's a great pairing with the quarterback and the coach.
There was one more factor. I don't think that I've heard that. I think Harbaugh and Kevin Warren had some run-ins on the Big Ten.
I saw that too. Yes.
So I don't know if that could play into it. I don't know. Just something that I had heard or.
Well, another thing is they probably wanted to stay away from the whole sign stealing situation too.
Well, he didn't do that, man. That's a lie.
I seen the signs.
I didn't see
You're
it.
trying. I mean, come on.
Guys, this weekend, we got a couple more minutes left here on Monsters of the Madhouse. Thank you so much for watching on the Chicago Sports Podcast Facebook page or watching on our YouTube channel, which you can like and subscribe. This weekend, we have our championship games. I cannot wait to watch them. First one, and I know, Dano, this is your second week on the show. I don't mean to call you out, but he does. So many people watching the Chiefs and the Ravens game are going to be excited for Taylor Swift this weekend. Is Jason Kelce going to get his shirt off? No, Dan didn't say that. Dan is like, no. I'm excited for this because I'm going to be wearing my Matt Nagy BU T-shirt and cheering on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And he got himself a little excited for that, and I don't blame you, man. I know how that is. So, but with that being said, guys, the Ravens and Chiefs in Baltimore this weekend. Listen, I'm never gonna. It's hard for me for the Chiefs, the Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, Andy Reid in the playoffs. They're very successful, but boy, when you look at that Ravens and that defense and what they have done and how they pretty much shut out Houston for like 3/4 of that game, the last game they played, Lamar Jackson with an MVP candidate this year. I just feel like the Ravens have everything running with them this year. So we'll start with UCB. What do you think, man? Ravens, Chiefs this weekend?
I want the Ravens to win. I'm getting kind of sick and tired of seeing Mahomes and Swifty and I seen something the other day. It was going to be an Eminem and Taylor Swift Super Bowl.
Nah, that'd be cool, man. I'd be definitely cheering for Eminem in that one. Dano Nagy, what about you, man? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking.
He kind of looks like him too.
I'm kind of thinking it just seems like it's the Ravens' destiny this year to win it all, man. They just seem like they're almost unbeatable at this point. But
you got to cheer for Roquan.
Right. But then again, you can't ever. I counted the Chiefs out last week, and you see how that happened.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were too. JB counting out the Chiefs, which is hard to do, but Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid together in the playoffs they've been pretty successful together when you look at this game this weekend.
They do, and I'll tell you, I thought Buffalo was going to edge them out in a close one. I thought the Bills Mafia that environment was going to be a little too much for Kansas City's first or Mahomes' first road playoff game. But I mean, those poor Buffalo fans. That phrase "wide right" has to just echo in their nightmares.
Especially with what the fans did for the stadium the past couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about just a devoted, just absolutely adoring fan base, and to see him, squeak out of it like that was heartbreaking. That being said, Kansas City's receivers all year have been a dismal disappointment to Mahomes and to their fan base. They had a great game against all trend and against all odds in Buffalo. Honestly, I don't see that continuing. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I called 3 of the 4 games right this last weekend. So I'm going to
Did you win any money?
I won none because I do not bet on sports, because all you got to do is watch Scott Van Pelt's Bad Beats to know that is a fool's errand. But
we're Bears fans. We can never bet on ourselves, so why bet on something else?
That's right. I think Baltimore squeaks by them. I think Kansas City scares them to death, but Baltimore's just they're a well-oiled machine.
I agree. I think that's who I'm leaning towards too. Kind of what Dano said too. They've been the best team all year in the league, and I think they're going to be very hard to beat. We got the 49ers and the Lions to wrap it up on Sunday night. It's going to be a tough one in San Francisco. I think there's going to be a lot of Lions fans at that game. I'm pulling for the Lions. I think the 49ers are a beatable team. Now, listen, Brock Purdy came back and won that game for them last week. But I saw a stat that the rush defense for the 49ers hasn't been that great. And I think with those 2 running backs, Montgomery and Gibbs, if they can run the ball a lot and be successful with that, they can absolutely win that game. So, Dan, I'll start with you. What do you think, 49ers or Lions?
I think the better story would be the Lions. I'd be more excited if the Lions won, but San Francisco. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking San Fran. CB, what about you?
I'm thinking San Fran too. I called it last week where Lions were going to run out of steam, but they ended up pulling it out. And as much as I want to see them win, I'm going to say San Francisco. And I'm sorry, David Montgomery, but you had a great year. It's going to come to an end.
All right, JB, what about you, man?
You know what? Honestly, Coop, your take on the running game is going to win the day. I mean, those Detroit running backs will absolutely wear you into the ground. And if you have a weakness in run defense, nothing keeps time of possession and keeps that scoreboard chugging like a fantastic running game. And if Detroit gets off doing that, Brock Purdy's not going to have the ball to be able to win the game. And I understand McCaffrey is otherworldly and all that, but I'm saying can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm saying it. Somebody's got to say it. It's gonna be Detroit by 6.
I love it. See, how about that? We're talking about Detroit going to the. How can we were talking about Detroit in the championship game on Sunday. Is just
Debo
incredible
playing?
itself.
Hey, if they go to the if they go to the Super Bowl,
Sunday, yeah.
if they're going to the Super Bowl, they got to have Barry Sanders come in and do something.
Yeah, Megatron,
100%.
Barry Sanders, Wayne Fonz, bring them all back, man. Eric Kramer.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scott
Wait,
Mitchell.
is Wayne Fonz still alive?
I don't know. I think he is. I don't know.
If not,
Maybe I spoke too soon.
I would
Matt Patricia.
put up some pictures of Night Train Lane. Anybody you can find.
Well, we're excited.
Hell, even Dan might suit up for that game. He might give head coaching to somebody else and suit up.
Oh yeah.
We're excited. We're excited for Sunday, guys. We're going to talk about that next week. And thank you all for watching tonight. We also want to thank TC World of Wonders. You guys get your sports apparel, your collection, hats, jerseys. Right now, you can visit tcworldofwonders.com. Also, Budget Cars. They are 3 generations of friends and family serving Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana since 1972. You can call Budget Cars at 129-874-5180 or 219-873-3988. Get back on the road today. Serendipity Ice Cream. There's never, ever a bad time for ice cream. So you can check it out. Experience ice cream at Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor. Open 7 days a week, located at 120 North Griffin Boulevard in Griffin, Indiana, because it's always delicious. Serendipity. And then, of course, Bridges Scoreboard, Northwest Indiana's Chicago sports headquarters. Delicious menu. Hang out with your friends. Watch the game. Grab some food. Grab some drinks. You can visit bridgesscoreboard.com. Make sure you guys also tomorrow night, Pinky, our good buddy Pinky, will be back on tomorrow night as we talk all Chicago sports here on the Chicago Sports Podcast and on our YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe that as well. Follow us on Facebook and check out some of our old shows. Well, all right, guys, JB, CB, Dano, I am so glad you guys came back. It was awesome to have you guys on tonight. Thank you for being on tonight. You guys were amazing.
Hey, before we go, who we coordinating for next Wednesday? What jersey?
I'm running out, so I don't have much about it.
I've got a.
I only got two, so
I've got a Peyton Road white I might bring out.
Ooh.
Can I wear my Muslim Muhammad jersey?
You can.
hell yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go with.
I'm gonna wear my Caposo.
Wow, that's a blast, man.
Moose's son is going to be in the draft this year, ain't he?
I know. That's why I said him. Yes, his son is going to be in the draft.
So is Jerry Rice's boy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be something after Muhammad said Chicago is where receivers go to die and then they drafted? That'd be poetic.
Oh my God, it would be like all coming back to one, man. That'd be hilarious.
Right.
So we're excited. So thank you guys so much for watching tonight, and so make sure you guys like and subscribe to everything. And we will be back next week talking about Bears, everything Chicago sports, and we're gonna find out, is it gonna be the Chiefs, Ravens? Is it gonna be 49ers, Lions? So we're gonna talk about those games along with everybody else. So I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you guys for coming on tonight, and we will talk to you next week.
See you guys. Thanks.